I'm Aaron from PhoneDog.com, and part 2 of a dogfight battle between the Galaxy Stellar and Victory 4G LTE starts in just a moment. But before we get into a dogfight between Samsung's devices, let's give special thanks to Best Buy Mobile because they give us devices like this for use in our One Pawed Bandit giveaway game, which we give to you for free at instantwin.phonedog.com, voice crack included. When you walk into Best Buy Mobile, you'll walk out working. They'll help you set up your email, your web, your contacts, and all of that. So when you walk out the door, you're good to go with either one of these devices at Best Buy Mobile. It's part 2. Which one's going to take home the gold medal? Is it going to be the Samsung Galaxy Stellar or Samsung Galaxy Victory 4G LTE and its super long name? We'll find out in part 2, which starts right now. Part 2 of a dogfight battle between two devices that, while they have pretty decent specs, this is the new mid-range, which is kind of hard calling these devices mid-range, but this is where it stands on America's wireless carriers. You've got the Samsung Galaxy Stellar on Verizon, the Samsung Galaxy Victory 4G LTE, which, yes, it is a mouthful, on Sprint. Both of these devices pack a 1.2 gigahertz dual-core Snapdragon S4 CPU, though this one is billed as a light CPU. 4-inch displays. This one has a 3-megapixel camera. This one has a 5-megapixel camera, and I won't bore you too much with specs. Take a look at part 1 if you want to know the full specifications of both of these devices. But my point is, these are both 4G LTE devices with dual-core processors, with a decent-sized display, and with Android 4.0 out of the gate. So no upgrades. 4.0 is what it ships with. These devices, this one's free with a 2-year agreement. This one's $99.99 with a 2-year agreement, which I'm sure you can find cheaper through Wirefly, Amazon, third-party services, things like that. So you're like, you know what, it's nice to see mid-range finally get to this point. So when you're buying a smartphone for grandma, or maybe you're on a tight budget, you don't want to spend $200 for a device. You see this, you're like, free or $100. These are good devices with dual-core processors that are reasonably fast and pack some of Samsung's best features for free and for $100. So you really can't beat it. So let's jump right in to Quadrant Standard and take a look at both of these devices. Now, like I said, they both have 1.2 gigahertz dual-core processors. They're S4 processors at that, but I'm really kind of interested to see here because they build this one as a light CPU on the specification chart, and then we'll run the full benchmark. Let's go ahead and do that. Bam, they build this one as a light CPU, even though both of these are part of the MSM 8960 family of S4 CPUs. So I'm waiting to see which one of these comes out on top. Overall, call quality, fantastic on both of these devices. It's really going to be network dependent because really at the core, these are almost identical devices, just one's on Verizon, one's on Sprint. And there are some minor camera differences and software differences, but otherwise, specs are almost identical here, and call quality has been very great on both of these devices. Earpiece is nice and loud. The speakerphone's relatively loud on both of these devices. Verizon's 4G LTE, I would give a slight, in terms of just network edge, I'd give a slight network edge to Verizon for a couple of reasons. One, 4G LTE is rolling out to its 400th market in the US, so it's getting to the point now with Verizon, since they've started their rollout in December of 2010, to where they are now. It's to a point where it's kind of hard not to find a 4G LTE market. I mean, you're kind of going around, unless you're in like an area with 2,000 people in the town, it's very challenging to find an area that doesn't have Verizon 4G LTE. So if you're looking for something with that kind of market saturation, this is going to be a device for you, and obviously it's cheaper. Over here, the Victory 4G LTE. Sprint's rolling out their 4G LTE, albeit kind of slowly. They're rolling out quite a few markets by the end of 2012, Charlotte being one of those markets. And let's go ahead and network connection failed. Speaking of, network connection failed. Let's go ahead and get that connection rolling up on this one. Here we go. So on Quadrant Standard, 4,055 over on the Galaxy Stellar, 4,316 over on the Galaxy Victory 4G LTE. So great performance over on both of these devices, obviously, but over on the Victory 4G LTE as it wins the Quadrant Standard score. Take it with a grain of salt. It's not indicative of day-to-day performance, and honestly, both of these have been incredibly fast in day-to-day stuff, so you have nothing to worry about there. That said, by a little narrow margin, the Galaxy Victory 4G LTE wins. Now, this is an area where Verizon's surely going to win because there's only 3G in Charlotte. There's 4G LTE on Verizon. So let's take a look at a network speed test here and kind of get an idea of what's going on both of these networks. So we'll load this up. We'll make sure both of these are in megabits per second. Let's do let's see if we can find, we have to do Greensboro, North Carolina. Then I'll switch it over here as well. If I can find the Greensboro one. Greensboro. I'm not quite sure why oh, there it is. Not quite sure why it's showing that far away, but whatever. So we'll do the speed test here, begin the test on both of these devices, and take a look. So Verizon's 4G LTE, they quote 5 to 12 megabits per second on the download, 2 to 5 megabits per second on the upload. That's what they're quoting. Now, obviously, I've seen speeds far faster than that on Verizon's 4G LTE, as you can see here. They did some network enhancements prior to the Democratic National Convention, and it looks like some of those network enhancements are here to stay, because I was not getting 18 megabits per second prior to the DNC, and now I am getting 18 megabits per second on the download, 14 megabits per second on the upload. Over here at Sprint's 3G, a very tired network, despite the fact that Project Vision is slowly rolling out in Charlotte. They were terrible throughout the year, and now it looks like 3G is coming back at least a little bit. It's 0.77 megabits per second, so about 780 kilobits per second here, and then of course 0.59 megabits per second over on the 3G. Another really crucial thing to talk about, cameras. So camera's important to you. This is kind of a no-brainer. You should go with the Victory 4G LTE, because it's packing a 5 megapixel camera with 720p HD video recording and a flash. Over here, granted, this device is free but does not have a flash, and is a 3 megapixel camera with VGA recording. So in other words, no HD video recording. If that's important to you, take a look at the Victory. But again, I think it's going to be one of those, like anything in the wireless industry, you're going to have to weigh some pros and cons here, because more 4G LTE markets, better camera. Different look and feel over here. Free, $99.99. So it's going to depend on what's most important to you across the board. So let's take a look at camera over here as well. We're going to do recording. Let's actually go back into camera here and take a look. And then I've got some different options over here. I've got single shot, smile shot, panorama, and cartoon. Take that, iPhone 5. This thing already has a panorama shot capability in it. And then, of course, you have your different modes here. And then you can go into settings and change some things around. Shooting mode, scene mode, focus mode, and more over here on this device. You've got the physical camera button, or the on-screen camera button there, as well as a physical camera button here. Though I will say, as you can see here once we back out, there is no option. You'll see it focus in and takes the picture. So there's no half press to focus, full press to take a picture, and then you don't get a physical button at all over here. But what you do get is a couple of different options. You get some shooting modes, single shot, smile shot, panorama over on this device as well. Flip it over to the front-facing camera. Flip it over to the... And then, of course, I don't know why I'm making weird faces like that, but you know what? It's okay. It's a dogfight. Anything goes. So let's take a picture here of, let's see, I got the iPhone 5 over on my desk. I did not mean to take a picture of black there, the black tarp. But we'll take a look at the logo here, the iPhone text. And so you can see, again, not going to win any awards by any means for the picture quality, but still 5 megapixel camera with 720p is better than 3 megapixels with no flash and no video recording capabilities in HD. But that said, for a 3 megapixel camera, image quality is not bad by any means. And obviously there's far more to an image equation than just megapixels, but you can see iPhone there, just to give you a quick comparison, screen on screen here, a little bit better over on the Victory 4G LTE, and due to the capabilities, the Victory 4G LTE wins over there in that round. Also, I'd like to show you the personal information management stuff, very similar here on both devices, but we'll go into Alexis Stevenson over here. We'll go into Alexis Stevenson over here as well. You can see very similar, if not identical, across the board, with the exception of the different colored little person here. You get your phone number, your email, groups, vibration patterns, and then notes, point of contact for supplies, and it's a favorited contact. So I can compose there through mail, I can text message, and you'll notice little things like, for example, on the Sprint versus Verizon version, the text messaging icon is slightly different. That's true on AT&T Samsung devices as well. The icon is slightly different over there. On most of their mid-range AT&T Samsung devices, you'll notice the two little boxes that compose messaging. So it's kind of funny to see those little inconsistencies across both devices. You do have recent applications over here, a physical button to easily remove and access Task Manager, whereas over here you have to press and hold the home button to access that, but otherwise relatively easy to use. Now you'll go back to standard mode, you'll notice that I only have 5 home screens in the easy mode. When I go back to standard, it'll kick me back up to 7 home screens, and then bam, I am back in business. So again, relatively easy to use on both of these devices. It's always a tough dogfight battle, particularly because it's going to be what's most important to you. So maybe you're already on Verizon, you don't want to switch. I will be the first to tell you, both of these devices are very nice. I have no problems with either one of these. It's great to see dual-core processors on both devices, decent 4-inch display. Camera's a little better over here, but battery life on both of these devices, fantastic. This both have 2,100 milliamp hour batteries. Obviously LTE takes its toll, and when it comes to Sprint it'll take its toll as well, but I'm still getting about 10 to 12 hours of use on LTE, which I imagine it to be the same over here. Not really a fair comparison since this isn't running LTE. That said, get about 16 hours right now on the Victory 4G LTE, 15 to 16 with 3G. So keep that in mind. That said, the winner of the dogfight is the Victory 4G LTE, just for the camera, honestly. Camera's good, and despite having that light branding on the processor, this thing outperforms it in quadrant standard. That said, both of these devices are fantastic. I hate that this one's $100 when this one is free. Hopefully Sprint will see that in the holiday season, reduce this to either free or $49.99. But just in terms of an overall dogfight battle, comparing everything, the Victory 4G LTE is the winner. Keep it locked on PhoneDog.com for continuing coverage of both of these devices and more as we continue into the Q4 holiday season. I call it the holiday silly season on PhoneDog.com. Hit us up on Facebook, Facebook.com/PhoneDog. Let me know if you have any questions about these devices on Twitter, PhoneDog_Aaron, and on Facebook at my page, Facebook.com/PhoneDogAB. Thanks so much for watching. Keep it locked on the site for more dogfights, reviews, challenges, and more in this Q4 smartphone craziness. I'll see you next time.